at this face and listening to this voice, you were tuned in to the number one Atlanta Braves fan. Yes, sir. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoker, and you are officially on the hot seat. What we do on the hot seat? We set somebody's ass on fire. But guess what? We ain't setting nobody on fire this week. No, sir. We talking about the Florida State Seminoles, the three-game winning streak Florida State Seminoles. Yes, so let's go ahead and talk about it, man. Paying homage to the ghost to my left and my right. Yeah, I came for the gospel. God damn it, I'm gonna give it to you. Ding ding, class in session. So, um, we're not gonna be here long. Keep this gonna be a real short show. I don't have that much to say, but before I get into it, listen. Shout out to my Atlanta Braves, man. Whoo, it's been a long time coming. Long time coming, but yeah, we back in the World Series. Quick shout out to Alex Anthopoulos. Listen, I wasn't a big fan of Alex Anthopoulos being hired after John Capella got removed as GM. I loved John Capella, and I'm a John Sherhouse disciple, so my expectations for GMs is through the roof, especially being an Atlanta Brave fan. I had to endure that Wren shit, his tenure as being an idiot of a GM for Atlanta Braves. So what John Capella did turning the franchise around, I was thoroughly impressed. So for Alex Anthopoulos to come in, add the pieces at the deadline that he did for little to nothing. I'm talking about peanuts. Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, a few other guys whose names I'm forgetting at the moment. Getting Adam Duvall back was huge during the regular season. Listen, man, I tip my hat to him. So, AA, shout out to you, man. He has really put his stamp on this 2021 Atlanta Braves team. So, by the time you all see this, it'll be right before Game 1. So, go Braves. Finish the fight. We got 4 more to go. Bring it home, guys. So, now we got that out the way. Florida State is on a 3-game winning streak. I don't even know when the last time I was able to say that shit. It is amazing the things we take for granted or things we took for granted as Florida State fans, right? But, 3-game winning streak. The most impressive being the game at North Carolina. I don't know what I can say about that game that hasn't already been said, being that I didn't record during the bye week, but that was as crisp and as sound of a football team I've seen come out of Tallahassee in a long time, guys. I actually was going to sit here and, think about, when was the last time I saw Florida State look that good against a formidable opponent. I don't want to waste my damn time. But it's been a while. You guys get in the comments and y'all let me know when was the last time y'all saw Florida State look that good against a good football team. Because although UNC hasn't lived up to their preseason hype, they're still a good football team. They're still a talented squad. They're still more talented than Florida State. And Florida State went in and kicked their ass. And that's saying something. You look at what they were able to do offensively. And although I think UNC blew some things on the offensive end on their football team, Florida State has a knack for making opposing quarterbacks look way better than what they are. And being that you're looking at Sam Howell being one of the top 2 quarterbacks we were probably going to face in this schedule, how mediocre he looked, how mediocre that offense looked, even though, again, they did miss some opportunities, you begin to think like, hey, maybe this team is turning a corner, right? As long as they don't go next week after the bye week and shit the bed against the University of Massachusetts Walt Bells, we might be on to something, right? So this past Saturday we handled business against UMass, right? Beat the dog shit out of them. And rightfully and deservingly so. Fuck Walt Bell. Fuck Walt Bell. Just gonna leave it there. Fuck, I was gonna say something really unnecessary. Fuck Walt Bell. So to me, this is where the rubber meets the road. All right. So let me take you back last season, right? So same North Carolina team comes into Tallahassee, number 5 ranked team in the country. It was a fluke victory, guys. Let's just call it for what it was. But Florida State won, right? Didn't score in the second half, made enough plays to win the game. It was cool. It was a cool moment, right, to see those guys celebrate, be able to hang their hat on something, be happy about something, right? Okay, fine. My attention, the moment the clock read 000, shifted right towards Louisville. The reason why, and I said this last season, you have an opportunity to truly build some momentum. You really have an opportunity to get some momentum behind you in the program. Some of the things that you're preaching, some of the things that you're telling recruits, boosters, fan base, whatever. Now you have an opportunity to submit these things. Because if it wasn't a fluke, we're able to see some real traction against Louisville. And what happens? You go to Louisville and get your brains blew out, right? I think the final score was 48-17, and you beat North Carolina at that time, the number 5 ranked team in the country, and you go on a 3-game losing streak. It's like that win was for fucking nothing. So it's coming Saturday. You got Clemson, right? I'm not sitting here predicting we're going to beat Clemson. I think Clemson is ripe for the picking. If there is a season you can beat Clemson, it's this one for a myriad of reasons. But I'm not predicting it because I think there's some things we're going to have to do well that I still haven't seen, which is consistently make plays down the field with throwing the ball. And that's not just a shot at Jordan Travis. It's a shot at Jordan Travis and those wide receivers and that line giving him time to block. I think they'll run the ball fine. I don't think you can just do that and beat Clemson because they are really good up front. You need to go into Clemson and look good. You don't even have to win. Not in my book. I would like for you to win. Of course, I'm a Florida State fan, but you don't even have to look good. You have to, because right now, the players are feeling good about themselves. The coaches are feeling good about themselves. This time a month ago, the fans they've completely flipped, right? They were calling for heads to roll in Tallahassee. You don't really hear that much about coaches being fired, unless you're Adam Fuller, but that's neither here nor there. You look at where you were a month ago and how you kind of changed the narrative a bit, right? You have some momentum. Now it's time to build on that momentum. A win would do wonders for this program. I'm not there yet, right? Some people try to figure out if I'm a glass half empty kind of guy or a glass half full kind of guy. I'll answer that for you. The glass is half full or half empty with me depending on what the situation is. All situations aren't the same. So it's not that I'm not being optimistic because, again, I do think Clemson is ripe for the picking. I just want to make sure that you go in and you show some competence. I want to make sure that you go in and show that the last 3 games haven't been a fluke. I want to make sure that you go in looking like a team that hasn't been committing as many penalties as we haven't seen, that hasn't been turning over the ball that we've seen in past weeks. The teams that we've seen the past 3 weeks, they take care of the ball. They're not committing penalties. They're not shooting themselves in the fucking foot. I want to see that team go out there, look crisp, not looking as if all these plays are predicted, right? Now, or scripted rather. I want to see a football team that's going to go out there and compete, play hard, and look like a team that's on the same page with a team like Clemson. Even though they're not talent-wise, Florida State can still do some things well against Clemson on both sides of the football. I want to see that team. And if that team results into a W, then fine. What we cannot see is what we saw last year in Louisville. That can't happen because you will potentially piss away all the momentum you've spent the last month building up. We don't want to do that. We as a Florida State fan, you have to be tired of taking 1 step forward and taking 3 steps backwards. It's time out for that. Here's an opportunity to debt that. Here's an opportunity to say, hey, listen, we're moving forward. Not predicting we're going to win every goddamn game from here on out, but whatever we're selling, whatever we've been selling, it's coming to fruition. We weren't lying to you all. It just took a little bit more time. And I've said from the front door he needed 3 years, regardless of what his record may have been this year. And again, these things need time. So if you have an opportunity to go into Clemson and have a good showing, whether it's a W or not, do that. Take advantage of this. Show us that, you know what, I know what I'm doing. I have the right people in place. The culture isn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be. And I've spoken to you all about culture before. And me personally, I'm I hate the fucking word, especially in college sports. Culture is usually indicative of winning. I think winning produces good culture. But and even if I'm giving out topic, just stay with me. I heard culture was a problem when they were 0-4. They were 0-3 after the Jacksonville State game. I heard culture was an issue then, right? Bad locker room. And I kind of dove into it on the previous show. Listen, people, especially in college football, the infrastructure is way more important than culture, right? What I mean by that is, and it's something I've touched on before, there are bad apples on every team in the country. Just don't hear about it. They do a decent good. The infrastructure does a good job of making sure that stuff doesn't get out. The people who you have in place, they control the culture. The people who you have in place, the infrastructure that you've built, who are able to weed out bad apples, who are able to put fires out, who are able to mentor to this kid, who are able to make certain things go away and disappear, that's what's important. And I believe Mike Norvell has the right people in place for the infrastructure to be solid that will produce a positive culture. What we've seen over the last 3 to 4 weeks is an example of it, because I did a show and I recently, and I basically talked about there is no marriage between the players and the coaches. The coaches aren't doing the players any good, and the players aren't doing the coaches any favor. I said in order for the ball to get rolling, they need to come together. There needed to be some type of cohesion between the two of them. To my surprise, we saw that in Chapel Hill. That was the first time I've seen in a very long time, regardless of who the head coach was. It was the first time I've seen in a while where the coaches help the players and the players help the coaches, as it should be. To me, that's an example of the infrastructure being solid and the culture not being bad as people think it is. Case in point, that if the culture was bad, that team wouldn't have performed as well as they did in Chapel Hill. If the locker room was bad, he would have lost them after the Jacksonville State game. He didn't. It's Mike Norvell I'm speaking of. That's an example of the culture not being as bad as it was reported to be. But me personally, like I've told you, I don't really give a shit about culture. If you're winning, the culture is fine. If you're losing, the culture fucking sucks. You want to have an idea of what bad culture is? Take a trip down to Baton Rouge. It's a lot swirling down in their program that you have no idea about that's going on. Some things are getting leaked, but it's much more worse than what is being laid on, because things started to deteriorate when the losses started piling up. I'm not here to say whether Ed Orgeron should lose his job or not. I'm just telling you that when you lose that much that quickly, looking as bad as LSU has looked, smoothed off of a national championship, people aren't going to tolerate that. They are trying to put out fires before they spread. They are trying to get a grip and make sure the culture doesn't spread as if it's some type of disease or virus or some shit, because the infrastructure isn't that strong. Not telling you what I think, telling you what I know. Living in Louisiana, again, I rub elbows, and I've had conversations with people who are parents or players down there, people who are on boards down there, things of that nature. The song I'm hearing is the same. And it reminds me of what's going on at Florida State. Well, prior to last season, you looked at the names that were popping up around the program as it relates to this person going, this is his job, this person going to take on this. These were impressive names. Like when he bought that slew of binders in, it was rumored that when he had, Mike Norvell had his interview, he had a bunch of binders because he was so organized. It was a thing everybody loved because they said the previous coach wasn't organized, right? Well, he has a keen eye for talent as it relates to the off-field positions and the on-field coaching positions, right? So here it is. We are starting to see all this materialize into something positive. Well, I cannot stress enough. If the culture was as bad as everybody says it was, if the infrastructure was as loose and the foundation was as loose as some people suggested, you wouldn't have saw what you saw in Chapel Hill. It'll manifest itself Saturday at Clemson. It's very important. Not just for those reasons, but even though it's a down year, Clemson is still Clemson for the most part. Recruits and commits are still going to watch their game. They are still tracking Florida State's progression. It's important that you don't take massive steps back anymore. Ain't nobody finna keep you can't keep going to a kid's home. Well, they're not going in the homes, but the phone calls, the text messages, the conversations that are being had. You can't keep telling, hey, we're getting better, when one step forward, 3 steps backwards. This game is as much, it's just as important for recruiting as it is for their football team and program as a whole. Although I think it's not the most important game as for recruiting, I think the Miami game will tell a lot. But you want to look good. That's all I'm really concerned about, looking good. Like I said, I wasn't going to keep you. That's all I really got, man. I just wanted to come here and holler at y'all and touch base before this Clemson game. And I think this Clemson game going to tell us a lot about this football team. I think it's going to tell us more about the coaching staff than it will the football team. But, hey, we'll see. As usual, man, I appreciate your time. Thank you for clicking on these videos. Y'all know how we get down in the comments, man. Get at me. You know, if I can't get back at you, blame my head, not my heart. You can reach me on Twitter at the Hot Seat 19. You can reach me on Instagram at the Hot Seat 19. You gentlemen, you ladies, you all are officially off the hot seat. Y'all be good.